Hello, and welcome to another life-changing episode here at Code Your English. I'm really glad you're here today. Whether you're listening on your way to work, taking a walk, or just relaxing at home with a cup of tea, thank you for spending this time with me. In this episode, we're going to explore something that matters deeply, not just for your English, but for your life. We're talking about self-love. Now, before you think this topic is only about positive quotes or bubble baths, let me tell you, it goes much deeper than that. Self-love isn't just about treating yourself once in a while. It's about how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself, and how you care for your emotional well-being, even when life gets hard. And let's be honest, life is often busy, messy, and far from perfect. In today's fast-paced world, we're under pressure all the time. We're expected to be productive, to look good, to succeed, to always be on. Social media, work, family, school, they all add to this pressure. And in the middle of all this, we often forget to ask ourselves, how am I really doing? Or more importantly, am I being kind to myself? That's where self-love comes in. It's not selfish. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about understanding your value, even when you make mistakes. It's about recognizing that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy. And most of all, it's about treating yourself like someone you actually care about. So why are we talking about this in an English podcast? Well, here at Code Your English, I don't just want to help you improve your vocabulary and listening skills. I want to help you build confidence in yourself, not only in English, but in the way you think, speak, and live. This episode is not just about learning new words. It's about learning how to be kinder to yourself, how to speak to yourself with the same care and compassion you would give a close friend. Throughout this episode, I'll be using natural conversational English, the way people really speak. I'll also ask you some reflective questions to help you think more deeply about your life. You might even want to pause the episode now and then, or take some notes in a journal. That's completely up to you. The goal is not to finish fast. The goal is to grow, both in language and in life. So, take a deep breath, and let's begin. What is self-love, and what it's not? So, what exactly is self-love? It's a phrase we often hear, but sometimes it's not so easy to understand. For many people, the idea of self-love feels confusing or even uncomfortable. Maybe you've been taught that loving yourself is selfish, or that you should always think about others before you think about yourself. But let's take a moment to look at self-love more clearly, not just as a word, but as a way of living. Self-love simply means treating yourself with the same respect, kindness, and care that you would offer to someone you deeply care about. It's about recognizing that you are a human being who deserves understanding, even when you make mistakes. It's about knowing your worth, not because of your job, your looks, your achievements, or how many followers you have, but because you are already enough, just as you are. Now, let's talk about what self-love is not. A lot of people think that self-love means being arrogant or self-centered. But that's not true. Self-love isn't about thinking you're better than other people. It's not about ignoring others or always putting yourself first in a selfish way. It's not about saying, I'm perfect and I don't need to change. In fact, true self-love often means being honest with yourself, facing your flaws, and still choosing to be kind to yourself through the process of change. Think of it this way. Imagine you're on an airplane. Before the plane takes off, the flight attendant tells you something important. In case of an emergency, put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others. Why? Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you won't have the strength or ability to help anyone else. That's what self-love is like. It's about giving yourself what you need so that you can live well, love others fully, and handle the challenges that life brings. Another common misunderstanding is that self-love means feeling good all the time, or being happy with everything about yourself. But real self-love isn't about always feeling great. It's not about ignoring your problems or pretending that everything is okay. It's about accepting your whole self, the good, the bad, and everything in between. It's about being able to say, yes, I struggle with this, or yes, I'm still learning, and not using that as a reason to hate yourself. Instead, you meet those struggles with patience and compassion. Let's use another image. Imagine your mind is like a garden. Self-love is the way you take care of it. If you never water the plants, if you only point out the weeds, or if you speak negatively to the soil every day, nothing beautiful will grow. But if you give your garden sunlight, if you take time to pull out the weeds gently, and if you speak words of encouragement, even when the flowers are still small, that garden will begin to flourish. The same is true for your inner world. Some people also confuse self-love with things like luxury or material comfort. Of course, doing nice things for yourself, like taking a relaxing bath or buying something you enjoy, can be part of self-love. But the deeper part of it is emotional. It's about the way you speak to yourself when you fail. It's about giving yourself permission to rest when you're tired. It's about choosing not to compare yourself to others and understanding that your journey is unique. And here's the thing. Self-love is not a one-time event. It's not something you do once and forget. It's a daily practice, like brushing your teeth or drinking water. It's in the small choices you make every day, how you react when you make a mistake, how you treat your body, how you talk to yourself when no one is around. Those small moments shape your relationship with yourself more than any big action ever could. So as we continue this episode, I want you to remember, self-love is not a luxury. It's a foundation. Just like a house needs a strong base to stand tall, we all need that inner support to live a healthy, meaningful life. And if that sounds hard right now, that's okay. You don't have to be perfect at it. You just have to start. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you were truly kind to yourself, not because you earned it, but just because you exist? Think about that for a moment. Because that's where self-love really begins. Why self-love feels so hard. Sometimes. So, if self-love is so important, and we all seem to agree that it matters, why is it so hard to actually practice it? That's a good question. Most people want to feel good about themselves. They want to feel confident, kind, and peaceful inside. But something often gets in the way. And usually, it's not just one thing. It's a combination of thoughts, habits, and life experiences that make self-love feel difficult, even impossible at times. One of the biggest reasons self-love feels hard is because of self-doubt. That little voice inside your head that says, "You're not good enough," or "You always mess things up." Maybe you've heard that voice before. Maybe you hear it every day. It's quiet, but powerful. It tells you to stay small. It tells you not to try. And over time, that voice becomes familiar, like background music in your mind. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's true. Self-doubt often grows from fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even fear of success. Along with self-doubt comes negative self-talk. These are the messages we repeat to ourselves. sometimes without even noticing. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be fluent in English. I'm too old to change. Have you ever said things like that to yourself? Would you ever say those things to a friend? Probably not. And yet, we say them to ourselves all the time. Negative self-talk is like planting weeds in your mind. The more you repeat it, the more it grows. And the more it grows, the harder it becomes to believe anything positive about yourself. Another reason self-love feels so hard is because of past experiences. Maybe someone in your life, a parent, a teacher, or a partner, made you feel unworthy. Maybe they criticized you often, or expected too much from you. Maybe they told you that you had to earn love by being perfect, or by always putting others first. And now, even though that person may no longer be in your life, their voice still lives inside your head. That kind of emotional baggage can stay with us for years, shaping how we see ourselves without us even realizing it. And then there's society, the outside world. We live in a culture that often tells us we're not enough. Advertisements show us the perfect body. Social media shows us the perfect life. Success is measured in money, status, or likes. And if we don't match those images, we start to believe that we're failing somehow. But have you ever stopped to ask, who created those rules? Or, why do I feel like I have to prove something all the time? These cultural messages are powerful, but they're not always healthy. They create a kind of silent pressure that makes it very hard to feel okay with who you are. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt guilty for taking a break? Maybe you wanted to rest, but then that voice in your head said, you should be doing something useful. Or maybe you did something kind for yourself, like saying no to someone, and then felt bad afterward. That guilt doesn't come from nowhere. It often comes from the belief that we must always be productive, always be helpful, and never put ourselves first. But the truth is, rest is not lazy. Setting boundaries is not rude. These are acts of self-respect, and self-respect is a big part of self-love. It's also important to understand that self-love isn't something many of us were taught growing up. In many families and cultures, the focus is on discipline, responsibility, and sacrifice. And while those values can be good in the right context, they often leave no room for softness or self-compassion. Maybe you learned how to work hard, how to be strong, how to care for others, but no one showed you how to care for yourself. So now, when you try to practice self-love, it feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. And that's okay. Like learning a new language, it takes time and patience. The good news is this: just because self-love feels hard doesn't mean it's impossible. Difficult doesn't mean wrong. It just means it's new, and maybe a little scary. But growth always starts with awareness. When you begin to notice the self-doubt, the negative self-talk, the pressure to be perfect, that's the first step. Because once you're aware of it, you can start to challenge it. You can start to choose a different way. So the next time you catch yourself being hard on yourself, ask this question: would I say this to someone I love? And if the answer is no, then you already know what to do. It's time to change the message. It's time to be on your own side. Let's keep going. Because even though this journey isn't easy, it's one of the most important ones you'll ever take, both for your language learning and your life. The inner critic versus inner coach. Let's take a moment to talk about something we all experience, even if we don't always realize it: the voice inside our head. Sometimes, this voice helps us stay focused and motivated, but other times, it becomes our worst enemy. We call this voice the inner critic. and it can be one of the biggest barriers to self-love. The inner critic is that little voice that says things like, "You're not good enough," "You always mess things up," or "Why even try? You'll just fail again." It often shows up when we feel nervous, when we make a mistake, or when we compare ourselves to others. And the more we listen to it, the more power it has over us. The inner critic can sound very logical, even convincing. But what it really does is tear us down. It focuses only on our weaknesses. It reminds us of every failure. And sometimes, it even repeats things we heard from others in the past. Maybe a teacher who said we weren't smart enough, or a parent who told us to always be better. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you've just tried speaking English in front of a group for the first time. Maybe you made a few mistakes. Your inner critic might say, "See? You sounded stupid. Everyone was judging you. You should have just kept quiet." That kind of message can make you feel embarrassed or even want to give up. But is it helpful? Does it actually help you grow or feel stronger? Usually not. Now, let's imagine a different voice. The voice of your inner coach. This voice is not about pretending everything is perfect. It doesn't lie to you or ignore problems. But it speaks with kindness, support, and honesty. Your inner coach might say, "Okay, you made a few mistakes, but that's normal. You were brave to try. You're learning, and next time will be better." This voice encourages you to keep going, even when things are hard. It focuses on progress, not perfection. The difference between the inner critic and the inner coach is huge. One holds you back. The other helps you move forward. One is built on fear. The other is built on self-respect and care. The truth is, both voices exist in all of us, but we get to choose which one we listen to more often. Let me share a personal story. A few years ago, I started creating podcast episodes like this one. At first, I felt really unsure of myself. My inner critic kept saying, "Your voice doesn't sound good enough. Your English isn't perfect. Who's even going to listen?" It made me feel like giving up. But then, I reminded myself to listen to my inner coach. That voice said, "You're doing this to help people. You're not perfect, but you're improving, and someone out there needs to hear your message." That small shift in mindset helped me keep going. And here I am, still learning, still growing, and still showing up. You don't have to get rid of your inner critic completely. That might not be possible. But you can learn to recognize it and not believe everything it says. When that harsh voice shows up, pause and ask yourself, is this voice helping me or hurting me? If it's hurting you, then it's time to turn the volume down and turn up the voice of your inner coach instead. One way to build your inner coach is to speak to yourself the way you would speak to a close friend. Imagine someone you care about is going through the same challenge. What would you say to them? Would you call them a failure? Or would you remind them of their effort, their progress, and their courage? Most likely, you'd offer support. So why not offer the same support to yourself? Changing the way you talk to yourself takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. But with time and consistency, your inner coach can become louder, stronger, and more natural. And when that happens, self-love becomes a little easier. Because you're no longer fighting yourself. You're standing with yourself. So, the next time you feel afraid, embarrassed, or like you're not enough, stop and listen. Ask yourself, who's speaking right now? My critic or my coach? And then choose the voice that leads you forward, not the one that keeps you stuck. Let's continue this journey together. Because self-love isn't about being perfect. It's about being on your own side. even when things are hard. Small acts of self-love. What it looks like day to day. When we talk about self-love, it can sometimes sound like a big idea, something emotional, deep, or even abstract. But the truth is, self-love shows up in small moments. It's not just something you feel, it's something you do. And most of the time, it doesn't look dramatic or special. It looks simple and personal. It looks like the small decisions you make every day that say, I matter too. Let's start with one of the most powerful examples, saying no. For many people, especially those who want to be kind or helpful, saying no feels uncomfortable. We don't want to disappoint others. We don't want them to think we're rude or selfish. But sometimes, saying no is the most loving thing you can do. Not just for yourself, but for everyone involved. For example, if you're exhausted after a long week and a friend invites you out, it's okay to say, I'd love to see you, but I really need to rest tonight. That one sentence can protect your energy, your peace, and your health. Another small but powerful act of self-love is resting without guilt. Many of us feel like we always have to be doing something. We feel guilty for sitting still or taking a break. But you are not a machine. You are a human being, and humans need rest. Taking a nap, going for a quiet walk, or simply sitting in silence for a few minutes isn't lazy. It's necessary. Think about it. When your phone battery is low, you charge it. Your mind and body need the same care. Giving yourself rest is a way of saying, I respect my limits. Setting boundaries is another important part of self-love. A boundary is simply a line that protects your time, your space, or your emotions. For example, maybe you've noticed that you feel stressed when someone at work always talks to you during your lunch break. A boundary might sound like, I'm happy to help, but I need to take my full break today to recharge. It's not about being mean. It's about being clear. Boundaries tell others how you want to be treated, and they also remind you to protect your own well-being. Self-love can also look like being proud of your progress, even when it's small. Maybe you've been trying to improve your English, and today you understood a full podcast without pausing. That's a win. Maybe you spoke up in a meeting, or finally started that project you were afraid of. These little victories matter. And yet, many of us skip over them because they don't seem big enough. But progress is progress. And self-love means celebrating that progress, even if no one else sees it. It also includes small things like preparing a healthy meal for yourself, going to bed on time, drinking enough water, or taking a break from social media when it starts making you feel bad about your life. These aren't fancy or expensive things. They're everyday choices that say, I care about myself. And over time, those choices build a stronger, more loving relationship with yourself. Let's not forget about how we speak to ourselves, even when no one else is listening. Choosing kind, supportive words, like, I'm doing my best, it's okay to make mistakes, or I'm learning, is a form of self-love too. You don't need to say these things out loud. Even hearing them in your mind can help shift your mood and attitude in powerful ways. So now, I want to ask you something. What's one thing you could do today to take care of yourself? Not just physically, but emotionally. Maybe it's turning off your phone an hour early tonight. Maybe it's finally starting that book you've wanted to read. Maybe it's simply taking 5 deep breaths in a quiet room. Whatever it is, choose something small and kind. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Remember, self-love doesn't grow from one big action. It grows from the small things, repeated over time. The more you practice these small acts, the more natural they will become. And with each one, you remind yourself of something powerful. I am worth care. I am worth kindness. I am worth love. Let's keep moving forward, step by step. You're already doing something good, just by being here, listening, and learning how to take better care of yourself. The role of mindset and consistency. So far, we've talked about what self-love means and how we can practice it in small ways. But now, let's go deeper and look at something very important: your mindset. Your mindset is the way you think about yourself, your abilities, and your life. It's the mental lens you use to look at the world and your place in it. And believe it or not, your mindset has a huge impact on how easy or hard it is to love yourself. There are two types of mindset that psychologists often talk about: the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, you believe that your qualities, like your intelligence, your talents, or your personality, are things you're born with and can't really change. For example, someone with a fixed mindset might say, "I'm just bad at languages," or "I always fail at relationships. That's just who I am." This way of thinking makes self-love very difficult. Why? Because if you believe you can't grow or change, then every mistake feels like proof that you're not good enough. You judge yourself instead of helping yourself. On the other hand, if you have a growth mindset, you believe that you can learn, improve, and get better over time, even if it takes effort. You don't see failure as the end of the story. You see it as a lesson, as part of the process. Someone with a growth mindset might say, "I didn't do well this time, but I can learn and improve." Or, "This is hard, but I'm getting stronger every day." This mindset doesn't ignore problems, but it allows room for compassion and change. And when you believe you can grow, you're more likely to treat yourself with patience and respect. So let me ask you, when you make a mistake, what do you usually say to yourself? Do you think, "I'm hopeless," or do you think, "I'll try again"? Your answer says a lot about your mindset and how much space you give yourself to grow with love, rather than judgment. Now, let's talk about another big part of self-love: consistency. So many people give up on self-care or personal growth because they think they're not doing it right or perfectly. But the truth is, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going. That's where consistency comes in. It means doing something regularly, even if you're not perfect at it. It means showing up for yourself again and again, not just on the good days, but also on the hard days. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you decide to speak English every day for 10 minutes. Some days you might feel confident and do great. Other days you might feel tired or unmotivated. Maybe you skip a day. A perfectionist mindset would say, "See? You failed. Just give up." But a consistent, self-loving mindset would say, "Okay, I missed a day. That's fine. I'll try again tomorrow." See the difference? One gives up. The other keeps going, gently, patiently, and with love. This brings us to one of the most helpful phrases you can remember: progress, not perfection. That means it's more important to keep moving forward, even slowly, than to try and be perfect all the time. In fact, perfection doesn't even exist. It's an idea, not a reality. If you're always chasing perfection, you'll always feel like you're failing. But if you focus on progress, you'll start to see your growth. You'll start to feel proud of the journey, not just the result. Self-love grows when we show up for ourselves over and over again, not just when everything is going well. It grows in the messy moments, the quiet moments, and the moments when we choose to keep going, even when it's hard. You don't have to get it right every time. You just have to stay with it. So, think about your mindset. Do you allow yourself room to grow? Or do you judge yourself every time you make a mistake? And what small thing could you do regularly, even once a week, to support your own progress? Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's taking quiet time. Maybe it's continuing to listen to this podcast as part of your personal growth. Whatever it is, remember this: progress, not perfection. That's how we grow. That's how we change. And that's how we learn to love ourselves. One step, one choice, and one kind word at a time. Self-love in hard times. Life isn't always easy. We all go through hard times. Maybe we fail at something we really care about. Maybe someone we love hurts us. Or maybe we just feel lost, tired, or stuck. In those moments, it's often hardest to be kind to ourselves. But this is exactly when self-love matters most. It's easy to be nice to yourself when everything is going well. But what about when everything feels like it's falling apart? Let's be honest. When things go wrong, many of us hear a loud voice in our heads saying things like, "You messed up. You're such a failure." Or, "Why can't you just be better?" That's the inner critic we talked about earlier. And when we're already in pain, that voice makes it worse. Imagine falling down and then someone kicking you while you're on the ground. That's what we often do to ourselves emotionally. We beat ourselves up instead of helping ourselves heal. But self-love during hard times is about doing the opposite. It means choosing compassion instead of criticism. It means saying to yourself, "Okay, this is hard, but I'm doing my best." Or, "It's normal to make mistakes. I'm human." Think about it this way. If your best friend was struggling, would you yell at them and call them weak? Of course not. You would probably say, "I'm here for you. It's okay. You'll get through this." So why don't we talk to ourselves that way? Have you ever noticed that some people seem stronger after a failure or setback? It's not because they never feel bad. It's because they don't stay in the pain forever. They allow themselves to feel it, to cry, to rest, to reflect. And then they get up again, slowly. That's real strength. And it starts with being gentle with yourself, especially when life doesn't go as planned. Let me share a short story. A few years ago, I applied for a job I really wanted. I worked hard on my application, I did several interviews, and I really believed I was the perfect fit. But in the end, they chose someone else. I was crushed. For days, I kept thinking, maybe I'm just not good enough. Or, what if I never succeed? It was painful. But then, a small part of me whispered, maybe this wasn't the right job. Maybe something better is waiting. I decided to take a break, talk to a friend, and go for walks to clear my mind. A few weeks later, I got another opportunity, and it turned out to be even better than the first one. Looking back, I'm grateful I didn't give up on myself. I just needed time, patience, and a little kindness. Here's something to think about. What do you usually say to yourself when things don't go as planned? Do you treat yourself with care? Or are you hard on yourself? It's important to be aware of these moments, because every difficult experience is also a chance to grow, to learn, and to practice self-love in real life. Sometimes, people think self-love means ignoring your problems or pretending everything is okay. But that's not true. Self-love isn't about avoiding pain. It's about staying with yourself through the pain. It's about not abandoning yourself when you need support the most. And remember, setbacks are a natural part of life. Nobody succeeds all the time. Everyone has doubts, makes mistakes, and feels disappointed now and then. What makes a difference is how we respond to those moments. Will we be cruel to ourselves? Or will we choose to stand by ourselves with courage and compassion? The next time you feel like you've failed, try this. Pause, take a deep breath, and say something kind to yourself. Maybe say, "This hurts, but it's not the end." Or, "I'm allowed to feel this way, and I'll take care of myself through it." These small acts of self-love can give you the strength to keep moving forward, even when the road is rough. So don't wait for life to be perfect to love yourself. Practice loving yourself, especially when it's messy, when you're struggling, when you feel like giving up. Because that's when it counts the most. How to practice more self-love. So, now that we've talked about what self-love is and why it matters, you may be wondering, how can I actually start practicing self-love in my daily life? The good news is that you don't need to make big or dramatic changes. You can begin with small, simple steps. Remember, self-love is not a place you arrive at one day and stay forever. It's a practice, something you choose to do over and over again, especially when life gets tough. One of the first and most powerful ways to practice self-love is to become more aware of your inner voice. Start noticing how you talk to yourself. Are you being kind, or are you being too critical? Many people are surprised when they realize how negative their self-talk can be. So try this. The next time you make a mistake, pause and ask yourself, would I speak to a friend like this? If the answer is no, then it's time to change that voice. Speak to yourself with the same kindness, care, and respect you would give to someone you love. That's a small but powerful act of self-love. Another helpful step is journaling. Writing in a journal can help you process your thoughts, understand your feelings, and recognize your strengths. You don't need to be a great writer. Just be honest. For example, you can write about what went well in your day, what you're proud of, or what you're struggling with. Even writing 1 or 2 sentences each day can make a difference over time. It gives your emotions space, and it helps you see yourself more clearly and kindly. Creating space for rest is also important. We live in a world that celebrates busyness and productivity. But your worth is not measured by how much you do. Rest is not lazy. Rest is necessary. When you give yourself permission to rest, whether that means sleeping well, taking breaks, going for a walk, or simply sitting in silence, you are saying, I matter. My well-being is important. That is self-love in action. Another simple practice is saying no. Many of us feel pressure to say yes to everything, to help others, to work late, to attend every event. But always saying yes can leave us feeling tired, stressed, and even resentful. Learning to say no is a way of protecting your time and energy. It doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you also care about yourself. That balance is healthy and necessary. You can also try something as simple as placing your hand on your heart for a few seconds and taking a deep breath. This small action reminds your body and mind that you are safe and supported. It may sound simple, but it's a grounding practice that many people find calming, especially in stressful moments. And don't forget about gratitude. Take a few seconds every day to notice something good, something you're thankful for. It could be your health, a kind message from a friend, the taste of your favorite food, or the quiet of the early morning. Gratitude helps shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right. And that shift is a form of self-love, too. You don't have to do all of these things at once. Start with one. Choose what feels easiest or most natural for you. Then keep going. Self-love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being real, and being gentle with yourself, even when things aren't perfect. And remember, this journey takes time. Be patient. Be consistent. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are learning. You are growing. And that, in itself, is a beautiful act of love. So ask yourself, what's one small thing you can do today to be kind to yourself? That one step is more than enough to begin. As we come to the end of this episode, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've talked about today. We've explored what self-love really means, and I hope you've seen that self-love isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's not about having everything figured out or always feeling happy with yourself. Instead, self-love is about being real. It's about accepting yourself with kindness, especially when life is difficult. It's about standing by yourself, not only when things are easy, but also when things are messy and complicated. Remember, self-love is a journey, not a destination. It's something you practice again and again, like learning a language or a musical instrument. Sometimes you'll feel strong and confident, and other times you might feel tired or doubtful. Both are okay. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself, little by little. Before we finish, I want to leave you with a small challenge for this week. I invite you to notice your inner voice. When you catch yourself being critical or hard on yourself, pause and ask, is this voice helping me, or is it hurting me? Then try to say something kind or supportive instead. It could be as simple as, I'm doing my best, or it's okay to make mistakes. Try this for just a few days and see if it changes how you feel. Sometimes, the smallest change in how we speak to ourselves can make a big difference in our mood and confidence. If you found this episode helpful or interesting, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with a friend or someone you think might benefit from it. Talking about self-love and kindness helps us all feel less alone. And if you have any thoughts or experiences you want to share, please leave a comment or message. I love hearing from you, and your story might inspire someone else. Thank you so much for spending this time with me here on Code Your English. I hope you feel a little lighter, a little stronger, and a little more ready to treat yourself with the care you deserve. Remember, you are enough, right now, just as you are. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Take good care of yourself. Keep practicing kindness, patience, and love, starting with the person you see in the mirror every day. I'll be here with you on this journey, and I can't wait to share more episodes with you soon. Until next time, stay well and be gentle with yourself.